the kitchen of intrigue, Curt Jackson and Chris Callell are cooking up a batch of mystery soup.
Each episode serves a new blend of tips, tactics, trends, and tales from the business and design sides of the escape room world.
So grab your spoon, because this episode starts in 3, 2, 1.
Mystery Soup.
All right, welcome to the Mystery Soup podcast. This is Curt, and there is no Chris this week. Chris is doing something. I'm not sure. He couldn't make it. He's got his camp that he's running. He's got his family, all that good stuff. We'll miss him this week, but he should be back next week. But this week we have Sean Nash with us, or with me, and that's exciting because Sean and I connected when Tina and I were on our trip around the country, and we knew we were going to be going to Michigan. Tina is originally from Michigan, and we were looking for different places. I can't remember if Sean, we connected on Facebook first.
I think you reached out to the business page on Facebook, and then we set up a call and we talked for a good 30 minutes, I think.
And then when we got to Novi and did some of the rooms, you were nowhere to be found. It was over a year ago, and it was Labor Day weekend, and you had that day off. And so unfortunately we weren't able to connect then. So it's exciting that we're finally able to connect now. Welcome, Sean, from Escape Room Novi in Michigan. Let's just start off with, if you can tell us about your life outside of your job, outside of escape rooms, and kind of what brought you here as well.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Sean. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is that I'm English or British, but I live in Michigan. Which is very unusual. It's not a touristy kind of place. So people bump into me and they're like, what are you doing here? So back in my university days, back in, 2008, 2009, I decided that I wanted to do a program through the summer between semesters. And there are many agencies out in the UK and Europe that want to bring UK and European people on this, mostly on their time off during the university, over to the United States to work at a summer camp for 9 or 10 weeks. And that was how I came to America. I went to a job fair. I interviewed with 2 or 3 camps out of 200 and fell in love with the idea of coming to Michigan. Even though I didn't know a lot about it, I just knew that it was 40 minutes outside of Detroit. And I was thinking it was 40 minutes outside of 8 Mile and 40 minutes outside of M&M. So I had a kind of a cloudy idea of what it was going to be like, but Michigan's a wonderful and beautiful place. So I worked at a summer camp. I worked there for 10 years straight, and I met my wife there. We got married, and now I live here.
Now, Novi is how far from Detroit?
I would say Novi is about maybe 30 minutes away.
Okay.
It's a little suburb. So we call Detroit, obviously Detroit, that's the city, and the city's got quite a wide kind of berth. And then the areas around Detroit are called Metro Detroit. Mm-hmm. So it's all the suburbs. So Novi is in one of the suburbs.
Gotcha. And do you get a lot of snow?
A lot more than I was expecting compared to the UK. So it's typically kind of snowy, maybe in December, but definitely January, February, and usually March.
Gotcha. Well, you're coming up to it.
Yeah, definitely an adjustment. I used to get maybe 2 days of snow a year in Birmingham, England, where I lived. So definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. California is where I'm born and raised, and now live in Florida. So I don't have to deal with that snow, at least not yet. We're looking to move north, but we'll see how that goes. So when were you hit by the escape room bug?
So we'd all heard of these things called escape rooms, and my first experience was in 2016. one of my friends, one of my American friends said, "Hey, should we go try one of these escape rooms?" And there was one in the local area, and it was a bank heist, which is now, a very common theme.
Right.
I didn't really know what we were getting into, but once I figured out it's about puzzles and solving things, it's not really about trivia
Mm.
or having real world knowledge. I'm a big fan of video games and puzzle games like Zelda and things like that. There's a lot of transferable skills, and we had a great time to the point where when we walked out, we said, "Hey, let's go do another one tomorrow morning," and we did.
Nice. You say your American friends. Was that here in America or was that in the UK?
Yeah, that was actually here. Um,
Okay.
and then when I went back to the UK, I heard about some, but they were very early escape rooms. They had very terrible reviews. It
Oh,
wasn't the experience we know and love now. But a couple years later, 2017, 2018, escape rooms blew up in the UK.
when's the last time you were home?
My brother got married last year in October. So we went over in October and
Okay.
we did the wedding, and we didn't do a lot of escape rooms, but we did do a escape room-ish game, which is from the TV show Sherlock, which was a
Uh-huh.
BBC production. They
Yep.
have a game there, and it's inside what looks like a real optician's, a real eye doctor's shop, and you have to know the keywords to get in. And when you get in, it's
Oh,
basically the escape room, which is
how
really
was
cool.
that?
It was
Yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
love the Sherlock TV show, so it was like being in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the games were fun.
The show with Cumberbatch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. So, how long have you worked at Novi? Escape Room Novi?
After I lived here, I was working for a family job in the print industry, and it was really fun, but it wasn't like the most fun job I've ever had. So I
Right.
decided to, wouldn't it be cool to work at an escape room, just maybe a couple evenings a week or the weekend?
Yeah.
And I went to the local Michigan Renaissance Festival, of which they had a mobile escape room that was meant to be
Ah.
like a medieval dungeon, but it had like a wooden facade around it, so you wouldn't really know that it's a trailer. And I talked to the guy there and I said, "Hey, you ever looking for more help?" And they said, "Yeah, we're struggling on usually evenings and Sundays." So I went, and the escape room became my fun job. So I just watched Room, and as much as it's still a job, I didn't take it too seriously and had a great time. And then in 2020, the world went crazy with COVID, and
Right.
unfortunately our print business closed. So I was left quarantined, and when it got to the summer, things started to open up in Michigan, and I wondered, what should I do for my job? Should I look for a new career, or should I just see what's going on at the escape room? Because I'm not really sure what's going on with the world right now. So we went back to the escape room and we reopened under a lot of conditions and
Mhm.
like one group in the lobby at a time and stuff like that.
Yep.
And we were already cleaning rooms, but cleaning rooms deeper after each game.
Right.
And suddenly that became my 9 to 5. Well, it became my new job, and I
Yeah.
worked 5 days a week. And then a little bit later, I got offered a job as a manager, and then a little bit later, I was asked to be a general manager.
Nice. Nice. And here you are.
And now I'm here.
Uh, so tell us about Escape Room Nova. Like, what rooms do you have? How many are there? How many rooms?
We have 8 rooms that are an
8
hour,
rooms.
and then 2 15-minute mini games.
Okay. And what are the rooms?
So we have a 1920 speakeasy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a Wild West train called the Great Railway Robbery. We have an auditorium emporium, which is like the strangest thrift store you'll ever see. It's really different kind of game, but really popular. We have a candy factory. We have Neverland, which is like the story of Peter Pan. We have a Black Ops lab attached to an Egyptian tomb. We have a magician's parlor, and our latest room is a trashed Las Vegas hotel.
Mm-hmm. Of those games, do you have a favorite?
I love all of the games, but the Speakeasy has always been a popular one.
Uh-huh.
I actually did the Speakeasy in 2018 with my groomsmen when we got married. and that was the last game I played there before I worked there. So that was a really fun experience.
Has a special place in your heart then?
It has a special place in my heart indeed.
Right. Right. When we were there, we played the Peter Pan one, the Candy Factory, Odd Pie, the Magic game. I think those were the 4 that we played. And then one of your mini games. I was surprised by the Peter Pan one. We actually enjoyed it. We weren't sure at first, but we had a lot of fun. And I think that was kind of going in with, no expectations. Was enjoyable.
I always find that when people speak to me about what escape room they should choose, a lot of people are always put off by what I would call the kiddie themes. So a Candy Factory, and a Neverland. Nobody really wants to kind of do the kiddie games, but they're not kiddie games. They're built for adults and families.
Yeah.
But Neverland especially is quite magical. There's a couple of little simple, almost like cutscene style transitions, which are kind of cool. So I really like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun. As the general manager, what is the hardest part of your job?
That's a great question. Anybody who's ever worked or runs an escape room, things break. It's a thing that happens. That's a difficult part. We have a rule that we've put in. We have 2 or 3 backups of everything. Whether it's a small piece of fake fruit, which doesn't really mean too much, but it's a prop in one of the games, or it's a wooden piece that has a radio frequency card inside or a magnet which needs to trigger something. We've learned that we need to have backups.
Yeah.
So I would say the hardest thing is maintaining the games. We have 8 games and we are mostly sold out on the weekends. So Monday mornings there's usually a big list of things to fine tune and fix just because of the pure amount of people that come through. At the same time, I've been to other areas where we talk to the owners and they say, hey, do you guys have any issues with things getting broken all the time? And they're like, no. So maybe it's just the area. Who knows?
Well, and also you are always busy, it seems like. When we were there, it was definitely busy. There was a lot of people in the lobby, and it's not the biggest lobby. So
No.
there was a lot of people there. And in fact, I think on that day, because it was a holiday, there were a couple other escape rooms in the area that were closed. And I was like, this has got to be one of the busiest days. Why would you be closed on Labor Day?
Yeah, our
But,
lobby is smaller than I would like, but we've basically turned as much of the building into open spaces for escape rooms as possible. That's why we've got the 8 games and 2 mini games. It's pretty much taking the whole space, although we do have 2 control rooms as well as a party space.
Right. Gotcha. So that's the toughest part. What's the best part of your job?
The best part, I love watching games. It doesn't matter that I'm one of the 2 or 3 general managers. I love watching games, especially for that Eureka moment. It doesn't matter what puzzle it is, the planets align and you realize that this goes to this and this does this. That's a great moment.
Yeah, it is. Do you get to GM games much?
We try to watch as many games as we can. We're busiest on the weekends, and in our senior management group, we tend to work a traditional 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But always watching games where possible.
Yeah. Do you have weekly meetings?
We have like hourly meetings, it seems. We talk about everything between us all the time. We try and get the whole staff together every 3 or 4 months. It's always difficult with schedules and staff being students and things like that.
What do you do when you get everybody together?
We have a big meeting and we kind of hash out some of the things that we're struggling with. We talk about a lot of our successes, and then we usually, take our stuff out to do something. Most recently, we went to a comedy dinner, which is a big Italian dinner, and we didn't tell our staff, but we'd given their names to the production. So some of our staff got called up on stage, which is really fun. But we've also gone to like theme parks and go-karts, lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. Have you played many of the escape rooms in your area?
Yeah, I've played quite a lot. I wouldn't say I've
Mm.
done them all, but I've done, I think, all of the ones that I want to do. I am not into haunted houses or scary escape
Mhm.
rooms, so I haven't done any of those, but I'm trying to get myself hyped up for the upcoming Halloween season. I might try and do my first haunted house.
Nice. The thing with haunted houses is that they have to push people through so often that you see the person in front of you getting scared, so you know it's coming. And I will say that when Tina and I did our trip, we were like saying, we're not going to do any scary rooms or anything. And we found out that we quite enjoy them because none of them are too crazy. But we really like the creepy that it's not a horror, but it's just kind of a creepy mannered feel. We enjoy that for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely love the idea of kind of spooky and
mhm.
not blood and gore.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, no, I really like the idea. I just wish I was more into it. But maybe that's my next step. I've done a lot of traditional escape rooms, and after a time, you see the same kind of rotation of puzzles.
Yeah.
Although I'm always being amazed by new concepts. But maybe that's the next thing I should do is do a scary room because it's gonna put me off my normal game.
Exactly. Why not? Why not? Give it a shot. What's the space one that's near you guys?
Yeah,
Space
there's a business just down the road called Five Senses.
Five Senses. Yes.
After we spoke, and you said, "Hey, are there any other escape rooms in the area that we recommend?" And I recommended them. And I know
Mhm.
they're not normally open on a Monday, so I think they opened especially for you.
Yes. That was fun. That was good. And he was building a couple of others. I don't know if he's finished or
Y-
not, or
I
they
don't
were.
believe they're quite finished yet. We are supposed to be taking our staff over there for like a escape room exchange. They'll come and play some of our games. We'll play theirs.
Right.
But
Nice.
yeah, we love them over there. They're a great gang. When they first opened, we were always sold out. It was like the summer holidays. We were always sold out, and people would say, "Do you have any recommendations?" And of course, as a business, you don't really want anybody going anywhere else. But the philosophy that we've always had, and our owner has, is some days you want pizza and some days you want tacos. They're both food, but you can have both in a week.
Yeah.
So that's our kind of philosophy with escape rooms, is that we don't mind recommending other escape rooms because there's a variety and there's a lot of games in Michigan. But that first weekend, or the weekend I was talking about, we sent a lot of people over there and they didn't have a very full schedule. But then
Mhm.
the next Monday, the owner showed up with a huge bin with Baby Yoda on the front, full of candy, and was like, "Thank you so much for sending people over and getting the word out." And
That's awesome.
now they're flying. Every escape room enthusiast in the area or state area, that's
Right.
high up on that priority list.
Yeah, well, Novi is in a good location. There's a hotel right next to you. There's restaurants. It's a good location where Five Senses is in this industrial around the corner location.
Right.
And I remember going there. I was like, "Are we in the right place?"
It's
So
definitely
it
an
was
unusual
very different.
location, but once you know it's there, it's there.
Right.
Like you said, we're in a complex where there's used to be a bowling alley, there's food and restaurant, there's a movie theater, there's a axe throwing place, there's a
Yep.
foaling place, which is where you throw American footballs to knock down bowling pins. That's a
Okay. Oh wow.
big Michigan thing.
Oh man, I missed that.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
It is. It's a good spot for that. Now, are all of your games bought? Are they purchased from another company or designer? I know Giant Dream Productions, a lot of your games. In fact, we had them on the show.
Not
Purchased?
all of them are directly a like bought game. When we first started, we kind of this is before me, but I'll say
Mhm.
it's we put our own kind of games together. We had a Jumanji style game. We had a Bistro, which was like a Chicago gangsters kind of room.
Mhm.
We had a creepy asylum where all of the walls were white and splattered blood, and we had a pirates room. So we kind of picked up pieces and props and made our own games, and then we got into great connections with a lot of vendors. You know, we're really great friends of Robert over at Giant Dream Productions,
Mm-hmm.
and we started to get a lot of games from them. But they're very open to input. So every time they would come, we'd hang out and wine and dine, and we'd talk about different things. And it's just great to talk to like-minded people.
Yeah.
And we said to them a long time ago, hey, we'd really like a kids game. We're looking for like a candy factory. We want something that's going to be good for kids, but also good for adults. Next year comes along. Hey, we've got a Candy Factory game. Perfect. Let's go. So we have
Nice.
the very first Candy Factory game, and then they're also open to other ideas. And we said, hey, we'd really like to open a like a trashed Vegas hotel room, but we don't want to be like The Hangover. We want it to be a little bit different. And lo and behold, now we have What Happened in Vegas.
Right. We played that game in Pennsylvania, I believe, after we visited Robert and Joe at their warehouse. They were like, "Hey, there's a place over here that has some of our rooms." I think our favorite is their shipwreck room, which you don't have, correct?
We have a second location called Escape Room
Oh,
Brighton. And over
okay.
there, we have Shipwreck Island, and we also have Curse of the Jade Skull from them.
Okay. I didn't know you had the second location.
Yeah,
Do you ever go over there to manage, or you stay right in Novi?
our headquarters is at Novi. Our Brighton location we've discovered is not as busy, I would
Yeah.
say, as Novi. Novi has a much bigger population. So we only open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays over there.
Got
And
it.
we've got 5 games over there, which are doing really well, but we're about to change 2 of them.
Okay. And how far is that from you? No,
It's about a
from
20-minute journey on the
okay.
freeway. The
It's not
freeway
too
is
bad.
right by our location. So if we do sell up on a Saturday, we can send them to the second location. However, there's this 5th season that I don't know if you have around the USA, but we do in Michigan. It's called construction season. So all of the roads and all the freeways are under construction pretty much from April all the way through to November. So it means that the freeway entrance and exit has been closed for 6 months or so by now.
Holy moly. Jeez. So being that most of your games are purchased from designers and that type of thing, you don't get a chance really to get into the whole design part of it, whether it's set design or game design. Do you wish you had more input into something like that? Ever want to design a game yourself?
We've always dreamed of making our own games, but the truth of it is that we're not the best electricians, we're not the best electronic engineers, we're not the best
Sure.
scenic people, but we know a lot of people that are. So we tend to get involved with it. Our Neverland room was the first of its kind. We worked with them and gave ideas for puzzles, and they basically brought our vision to life. We also have this game called Auditorium Emporium, which is a game where we have a talking puppet plant called Hubert, and
Right.
the shop is full of all kinds of random items, some of which are important to puzzles and some of which are just decorative. But each game of that kind of style game is different. So there's 2 currently in the United States, there's one in New York and there's one in Michigan. And we've seen pictures and videos of the other game, and ours is the same but different.
Hmm.
So when we installed that game, we had a little bit of creative control where us and the designer, Chris, went to 3 or 4 different thrift stores and we picked out peculiar items. We have the most random things in our store, but
Yep.
each one almost has its own story. We have a portrait of a tiger in Elizabethan wear, like they're the king or queen. We have a model statue of a doctor slapping a baby's bottom when it's first been born. We have giant cuddly toys of monkeys and dogs. We have a mirror up in the ceiling, which, if you stand in the right spot, you can see some creepy ghosts that are hidden in our roof. Things like
I
that.
didn't see that. Ah, I
No,
missed it. There was so much when we played that game. There was just so much to look at and take in while you're doing these puzzles. It was an interesting, enjoyable game. Do you get many people who, because there's so many puzzles and you get the punch card of the ones you did, do you get many people come to replay that game? to try to get all the puzzles done?
I would say we've had maybe 20 or 30 groups that have come
Okay.
back and played a second time.
Yeah.
We get a lot of repeat business. We have a lot of people that come back and play without the punch card because they just want to play again and
Huh.
they kind of want to see what happens this time. Obviously, each staff member has their own spin on what Hubert is or how they talk, but we'll follow the same kind of framework and training.
I bet that's tough to train new people on that game.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about what's the hardest part of the escape room business. Teaching games when you have 8 games, it can be tricky because we don't want anybody to get confused as they work through a game. We don't want anybody to not be able to run a game, to their full strength. Auditorium Emporium has 30 puzzles, and the customers will basically pick numbers that will correlate to different puzzles. So we need to know about 45 different puzzles and how they work because there's some bonus puzzles and some other things that happen through the game. So it's part escape room, part theater, because some of it is more like learning lines and doing certain things at a certain time. So when you've got a game with a lot of puzzles, there's a different way to train.
Right. So speaking of training, let's say somebody comes in, you just hired them. What's the process of training them? Do you start them on one room, or do you go over the employee handbook first, or what's the whole process there?
When we get new stuff in, we try and get them through as many rooms as we can, but in a kind of stylized way. So most of the staff that we hire will have already played an escape room. That's really important.
Right.
If they haven't, that's okay. We're going to show you how we do it. We typically start on one room and we put them into an escape room and we explain the rules as normal. And we tell them they can have as many clues as they like. They can take as long as they would like, but you've got to play the game. And it's really important because the staff need to see how puzzles work from a customer's perspective. They need to know how difficult it might be to hook a key from a fishing line. They need to see how difficult it is to correlate a puzzle where you've got to put nameplates in the right place. It just gives them a unique perspective so they can, one, for training, retain the information because they've physically done it and not read it in a book. And two, they can align with the customer to know how frustrating some things are or why they think the answer is this, but it should be this.
Once they've played the game, do you have them learn one game and kind of stay on it until they've got it? Or do you immediately start rotating them and training under somebody else for all the games?
What we've learned is everybody learns a little bit differently. For the most part, we would have them run through a game, finish the game, we would reset the game together and explain why things have to go in a certain way, or hey, you got to put this in this certain place because when you close this puzzle, it will open in a certain way. But then we will also have them speed run the game. So they already know the answers. They've just played the game, but now they can just do it over and over. That usually takes about half an hour or so. And then we'll have them watch a game, ideally with either us or a member of staff. And then they'll run a game with someone shadowing them. So they can get the idea of what they should and shouldn't say.
Okay, gotcha. And so when somebody comes in fact, I think I remember when we came and played our 4 games, we got a different game master each time. So when an employee comes in, are they assigned a game for that day as opposed to just taking the next group, whatever game they have?
Every day is a little bit different, but on a normal day, like a weekday, when we're a little bit slower than the weekend, we will look at what our bookings are and we'll talk to our staff and say who wants to run what. On the weekend, just because we have 8 games, we're sold out mostly throughout the day, so we could run up to 7 games back to back per game. We typically have one person running at least 50% of the day, and then they'll swap with somebody. We want to make it exciting, so you don't want to watch the same game 7 times in a row, but you might watch it three times in a row and then switch.
Right. I know we always like to have the same game master for playing multiple games, but We didn't get that. We played 4 games at your place. We had 4 different
That's really
game
funny.
masters. Yeah.
When typically people come in and play multiple games, which happens all the time, we have a lot of people that might do a destination escape room weekend where they'll come in, play as many games as they can in a weekend and leave. We will try our very best to keep the game master with them because it's just that same shared experience.
Yes.
It just seems like it didn't happen on that particular day, probably because it was a holiday.
Probably. That's the one time we will, if we have somebody that stays with us, we're more apt to tip them as opposed to having 4 different people. So speaking of that, are there any incentives for your staff?
Our staff do collect tips. I would say it's not as likely as other jobs, but around the holiday time, there's a lot more tipping happens.
Yeah.
Mostly by families, not so much by corporate groups, because typically a corporate group have paid with a company card and they don't have the expenses for that. We don't really have any incentives. In the past, we've ran some things about who can sell the most mini games, who can sell the most merchandise, how many times you might get mentioned on a 5-star review over the weekend, stuff like that. But nothing in place as of right now.
Gotcha. Speaking of, you mentioned merchandise. You do a lot of other things besides escape rooms. You have mobile games. You have those mini games. You have merch. You have party packages. For those who are looking for other revenue streams in their business, what works for you?
So, as a escape room manager, I'm not the owner, but for the success of the business, there's lots of different revenue streams that have just helped, a lot of partnerships. So we talked first about party packages. We decided to convert one of our storage rooms, which was big enough to be a kind of a 1-room escape room, into our party room, and we decorated it. We do a ton of parties. We probably do
Really?
200 parties, like kids' birthday parties a year.
Really? Wow.
So we have a partnership with the local pizza company. We get a couple pizzas, a couple 2 liters of soda. We provide all the paper products, the tablecloths, and they have the room for an hour. Now, what's really cool about it is something we just did a couple years ago, is we decided that wouldn't it be fun for parents to be able to watch their kids in the escape room? So we were able to hook up our internal CCTV to the party room so that we can show whichever game their kids are in to the party room. So that allows parents to book the party room for 2 hours, watch the kids while they're in the game. Maybe all the parents and family will talk and hang out. And then when the kids come out of the escape room, we turn it off so they don't see us resetting the game. But, it has a message on there that says happy birthday.
Oh, that's great. I assume an adult needs to be in the room with the kids as well.
We would always like an adult in the room. However, we found that 99% of kids are great. So as long as they're well behaved, that's fine by us. We allow a chaperone in the room free of charge. We don't want to charge for a ticket to be a chaperone because the parent really doesn't want to be in there. But we know that the kids are going to behave twice as well if their parents are in there. So it's in our best interest.
That's fair. And so what about like your merch? Do you sell much of that?
So merchandise is a brand new thing that we've always wanted to do for the past 5-6 years, and we've finally got everything in place. For the last about year and a half, we've been selling escape room board games. We have a range of games from the Unlock series through to a UK-based company called Puzzle Post, which are escape rooms in an envelope, as well as doing some other kind of merchandise style things. We've got loads of different board games. Now we're getting into the world of magnets, key rings, and t-shirts. So we launched a competition for all of our customers to design a t-shirt. It didn't have to be perfect art. It could just be a concept. And we decided that whatever they designed, the best one would get made into a shirt.
Okay.
So the winner was this great guy. He's a student at the local university, not going into art, but has an art background. So we said, hey, let's partner up. So now we have at least one t-shirt design per room, which is going to be a different design than just the game's logo for the most part.
Nice.
And we have them all in production and they should be ready this week.
That's awesome. And so did the same guy make all of them?
The same guy made most of them. I would say
Okay.
all but like for a couple of rooms we just have the logos. But for some of all the rest are unique designs. And he was a really cool guy. He came up with 2 or 3 concepts and we said, we love that one, not so sure about that one, and we
Yeah.
don't like that one. So then he could go away and come up with stuff. And he loves escape rooms too. So it was cool because he could come in, play one of our escape rooms. We'd let him play for free. He'd
Yep.
get the inspiration for the game, go away and design a shirt, make a cool design. So then he can make some money for being a student too.
That's awesome. How many did you get as far as submissions?
I think we got about 30 submissions.
Okay, nice.
Some from just being basic, moving a collage of our logos to high quality digital art pieces.
Right.
So really exciting times. I know that you share the same kind of experience that when you go to an attraction like an escape room, you want a little memento. I've always been a big passionate person about getting magnets and stickers. I love magnets. I have a huge fridge full of magnets. One of my other general managers, Xavier, he hates magnets and loves stickers. So we decided to do both because
Perfect.
someone wants a sticker, someone wants a magnet.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you have those mobile escape rooms.
Yeah, we have 8 different mobile escape room trailers.
Okay.
6 of them have escape rooms built inside them, and 2 of them we use for storage because we have tent games too. So
Right.
we started off with one trailer. It was a medieval dungeon style game, and it did pretty well. And actually, we were in partnership with the local Renaissance Festival, and it was the attraction there. And then we got another game, and then we got another game, and then we got another game. So now we have a whole what we call a whole plethora of games. We've got a whole
Right.
fleet of escape rooms. Most people will think that they will go to just your kid's birthday party, but our biggest clientele, honestly, comes from corporate companies, companies that are doing a team building day, companies that are doing a family fun day, and we take them all over. We're the largest mobile escape room company in all of America, mostly
Wow.
because we've got 6 games in the trailers and 6 tents. And we usually do a lot of business in Michigan. We do the surrounding states and we travel all over. But last summer, we went to Colorado for a wedding, and we went all the way out to Wyoming as well for a big birthday party.
Wow. So I take it then if you're driving to these places, do you have certain staff that are just mobile room staff?
We've always liked to get to that point where the mobile business is as big as the escape room. So we would have one staff. But what we've really decided is cross-training everybody is the best option. We have the location in Novi, the location in Brighton, and our mobiles. So when the schedule doesn't quite align, people are flexible and they can go to a different location. There's a lot of people that love being on the road, and there's a lot of people that would rather just be at the escape room all day, but everybody's very flexible.
How big are these trailers?
We have our biggest trailer is 28 feet long.
Yeah, see, that's not easy to drive for everyone.
Oh, definitely not. So we
Yeah.
have drivers that are trained to drive.
Okay, gotcha.
Not everybody's expected to drive because, some of our staff are 17, 18-year-old high school students.
Right.
I wouldn't expect them to drive, and I wouldn't like them to drive.
Like, no, we're not gonna do it. And I take it those tent games are Mind Games? Are they from Mind Games?
Yes.
Yes,
We've
yeah.
worked with them for a few years, and we've got 6 different games, and they're really good.
Do you have Exit Protocol?
We do have Exit Protocol.
The escape room business that Tina used to own in Kissimmee with her partner was owned by Mind Games like before the previous owner. So it was like Mind Games, then another owner, and then Tina and her partner bought it and then have since sold it. But Exit Protocol is one of those. And I remember going to Trans World and I saw Mind Games there, and they had all their tents, and Exit Protocol was one.
Before I worked at the escape room, Exit Protocol was one of their mini games. It was
Mm-hmm.
set up in the lobby space where we have a mini game now. But
Really?
every time they rented it out on the weekend, we had to take it all down.
Yeah.
So now it's just a tent game.
Gotcha. And so would you say the tent games are as popular as the trailer ones?
I would say the trailers are the most sought after.
Yeah.
And it's basically because it's like an escape room that you go to a venue. I always describe them as it's a Hollywood movie set in a trailer. It's going to look awesome. It's going to feel awesome. There's things that are
Right.
fixed. The tents are really cool. They have printed canvases and we bring tables with props, but it's not as authentic. However, we talk
Yep.
to a lot of people where a trailer just doesn't work in their location. They want to be in the atrium of their headquarters. They want to be
Right.
in the local barn for a wedding. They want to be out on the school playing field. So there's variety. And I think that's what's really cool about having both. The tents are cool, but as we talked about, Michigan has hot summers and cold winters, and tents don't have air conditioning, but our trailers do. So that I think that's
true.
also part of the reason why it's important.
What did you take to the Renaissance Fair? Was it a trailer or a tent?
We had a medieval dungeon trailer,
Trailer.
and we
Okay.
had a dragons trial, like a Dungeons and Dragons style trailer too.
Cool.
And they're 15-minute games, but if people finished early, like maybe 7 or 8 minutes left because they were really good, they
Yeah.
would use the other 7 or 8 minutes in the trailer of air conditioning because they're like, I've paid for my 15 minutes. I want to use the AC.
That's hilarious. When Tina and I were doing our trip, we thought, oh, it'd be neat to have like a tent game or maybe a trailer game and go to the different Ren fairs around the country. That'd be neat.
Yeah,
But
it was definitely a cool time.
yeah, that's good. Do you ever go out yourself with trailers or tents?
I haven't been as a personal guest for a little while, but I see pictures every weekend, and the Michigan one is pretty big.
I think I'd rather work the escape room, but it is cool to travel, especially if you go into other states, Colorado and Wyoming. That's pretty neat.
It was pretty cool for our staff because we worked out how long it would take to get there. It was pretty much a 4-day drive without driving too much per day. But we gave them a bit of flexibility. We gave them some extra paid hours so that they could go and visit some of the sites along the way.
Yeah.
So they went
nice.
to Mount Rushmore and they went to
Okay.
a couple national parks. And when they came back, I was kind of disappointed I didn't go on the trip because it was
Right.
a cool way to see America.
Listen, you didn't miss anything. When I went to see Mount Rushmore, I was like, that's how big it is. I thought it was like this huge thing. And it's so small compared to what's in your head. You know, a bucket list item, but so you don't have any. Have you seen those boxes that are like the pirate boxes that you can take places and they're like it's an escape room for a group? You guys don't have anything like that, right? That are just a series of boxes.
It's a funny story. We actually do have a couple of mobile items that didn't make it yet. So we have some escape boxes that are self-contained games
Yeah.
where we are looking to get them up and running. What happened is we had them right before the pandemic, and then we opened a second location. So things have kind of prioritized over them.
Sure.
But because we are in an entertainment complex, the idea is that people can come and rent them for a nominal fee, go to the bar, go play them. There'll be a website created with all the clues that they need if they need them. And then they have to return it by a certain time and they get the deposit back and we make a bit of money on it. So we'd like to get that up and running in the future, but we haven't got it going yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be awesome. What software do y'all use for running games?
We now currently use M3.
Yep.
And we love it. We love, from a business point of view, that we have books that tell you the entire gameplay, has photos of everything, photos of every poster that you might need to read so they can quote it back to the guests. However, in M3, you can put in the objectives in order of how they would play it for the most part, with built-in clues and bullet points that go along with it.
Yeah.
So anybody can get up from their game, to run up front to greet a customer or run to the bathroom or warm up their food, someone can just look at the screen and know exactly where they are in the game without having to even look up at the game.
Right, right, right. Do your game masters run one game at a time, or do they run two?
We always try to have one game master run one game
Yeah.
because that's the best customer experience.
Right.
Everything that I try and preach as a manager is about experience. My other managers are kind of in different areas. Like one manager is into our HR, one of our managers is into fixing and doing all the electronics and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I try and look after experience. Sometimes we have to double watch because of schedule, because of unique circumstances, because of mobiles going out for a couple hours. But M3 helps with that.
Nice, nice. You know, we talked that there's obviously other escape rooms in the area. What sets Escape Room Novi apart from them, do you think?
Escape Room Novi has a plethora of games. So there's 8
it's a
different
lot.
games to play, plus a couple mini games if you want to just do a little bit more, but not a full game. We're in a great area. Novi has a lot of bars and restaurants, and it's also home to the local convention center where they have state fairs, Comic-Con, all those kind of
Nice.
things. So it makes it a bit of a destination. Novi actually has a cool history. Novi is spelt Novi. And the reason it is called Novi is back in the late 1800s, where they made the train line between Detroit and Chicago. There was different stops along the way. So if you're an escape room person, you might see a lot of Roman numerals in games. VI is 6, and where Novi is the 6th stop on the train line. So it became number 6, but then over time it became Novi.
That is cool. I had no idea.
So I really like that as an escape room person, as a local, business in that area. It's a cool little story.
That is a cool story.
But yeah, we've got lots of games. We've got mobile escape rooms. We've got mini games, and it's just in a good location.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there anything that you would want to, as far as the business, and I know you don't own it, so you can't make changes, but is there anything that you would like to see improved or changed?
What I'd really like to do is to go multi-level in an escape room, whether that's a hatch or stairs or a ladder temporarily. We have pretty tough fire code in Novi, so we've not been able to do it up to now. I'd like us to have a multi-level experience because it'll be something different from the local area. But I don't think we're going to get that anytime soon. We're kind of held back from jurisdiction there.
Have you played any games that were multi-level?
Yes, I played on a work trip. We went out to Orlando to meet with one of our clients and to do some escape rooms. And we ended up going to the Escape Ventures in Orlando. I'd already played a couple games there. And we played Operation Arctic Storm.
Yeah.
And it
Neighborhood Watcher. Did you play Neighborhood Watcher?
And we played Neighborhood Watcher.
Yeah.
It's one of the best and most terrifying experiences of my life.
I like both those games. They're really good. But yeah, there's 2 levels, and because they have the high ceilings, they're able to do that. It's interesting how they made that happen.
We have high ceilings. One side of the building is higher than the other, but they're both at least, even the shortest side is 10 feet, which is a blessing and a curse. Because it's a blessing, we've got lots of space to expand up, so we've got some kind of tall ceilings and some tall foliage in Neverland, for example. But then when you've designed a different room, you've got to then take that into consideration that, for example, our hotel room is really tall, but real hotel rooms are not. So we had to build in some things to complement that.
That's true. That's true. Have you ever thought about owning your own escape room business? Is that in the stars for you in the future?
I think it would be really cool to own an escape room. I really enjoy working for Escape Room Novi. I really enjoy putting my energy into it. It's really cool to run the business. I'd like to have my own business in the future, but I think that's a kind of a dream.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how soon that may or may not happen.
Yeah. Before this, you were saying your wife enjoys escape rooms, but is not the enthusiast you are, correct?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I am quite passionate about them. I wish I could play more games. Sometimes when we're on vacation, I'll say to my wife, "Oh, should we go do an escape room?" And she's not so keen. She'd rather sit on the beach. But we did go to the Port Charlotte version of Escape Ventures, where we were on a family trip. We just took a few hours away from the family and said we're going to play a couple games. And I think it reignited her love of escape rooms, and we had a really
Nice.
great time, even though one was spooky and one was difficult. It was a really unique experience.
Nice, nice. Do you want to stay in Novi for the foreseeable future, or what are your personal plans?
I think we're going to be staying in Michigan for life, hopefully. My wife's family is all from here, so it's important from a family standpoint that we've got some support and people all around us, with my family being across the ocean in England, although they do come out typically once a year, and I'll try and go there once a year too.
Do you miss it? Do
I
you miss
miss
England?
little bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
I miss a lot of the culture. I miss a lot of the food, even though all my American friends thinks it's really bland.
Land.
I miss my friends and family, but this is like the next chapter in my life that I'm here. And I love Michigan. It's beautiful. I love that
Cool.
there's really dedicated seasons here. We have a very orange fall. We have a very cold winter. We have a beautiful spring and a hot summer. In England, where I live, we do have those, but they're very reduced. It might
Yeah.
be a week of good weather in the summer, a week of winter in the winter.
Listen, we don't have any kind of season changes in Florida. It's the same. So if we do move up north, that's the thing I'm most excited about. All right. So, Sean, we're going to get into our speed rounds. The way this works is that you answer with one sentence, and we're just going to go question, 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 question. If you want to expand on something afterwards, we can talk about that when we're done. Ready?
Let's go.
All right. What is your favorite nonfiction book, if you have one?
So my favorite is the biography of Alexander Hamilton.
Oh,
I got
okay.
really into the musical and I wanted a little bit more. So I read the Ron Chernow book, but I've also got Bob Iger's book on my desk ready to read. He's the ex and current CEO of Disney.
That's right.
So escape rooms attractions go hand in hand.
What is your favorite fiction book?
Now, I'm a British kid. I love the Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
I grew up at the time when they were coming out. We would go to the supermarket and wait till midnight to get the book.
At the supermarket? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
they were the
different.
cheapest.
That's so cool. What is your favorite or one of your favorite escape room games that you've played?
I love the experience that we got in Neighborhood Watcher. It's not the
Okay.
most complicated game in the world, but the
Interesting.
experience was. I think about that game all the time.
Wow. Nice. Nice. Okay. What is one game or location you really want to play or visit?
I've been to Florida 4 times in the last 2 years, and I still haven't made it over to the exit games.
Oh,
I'm dying to
okay.
play Servants of Slight.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. All right. What is your favorite board game?
I love Clue, but fun
Good
fact,
one.
in the UK, it's called Cluedo. They added a D and an O to the end.
Interesting.
I also really love this game called Forbidden Island. It's a short board game, and the idea is that you're working together to escape an island which is flooding. It is excellent. From my summer camp days, the family I lived with had it, and now I own it, and I play it whenever we go camping and things like that.
Nice. Do you have a favorite YouTube or TikTok channel?
There's a couple of YouTubers that I follow, and they're mostly in the attractions business. They go on a lot of cruises, they go to Disney, they go to Universal, and they are called Ordinary Adventures.
Okay. I'll have to look that up. Right up my alley. All right, that's the end of the speed round. Good job. I will say you mentioned Harry Potter as being your favorite fictional book. when I was at a day camp, directing a day camp, I created a Harry Potter summer camp.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, it was fantastic. The kids that came were not the kids that would go to our traditional outdoor camp. They were book kids, and they loved it, and we grew it every year. We got more and more kids. Each year I had to reread the books or listen to the books. I usually did it while I was driving, the audiobooks, because those kids will test you as far as like, well, what did, Harry Potter do then, or what did Hermione do then? And I had to be on my game, as did all of our staff. But it was a lot of fun. We had a great time.
That's really
Um,
interesting. I think Harry Potter is one of those huge IPs that
oh,
could do so well in the escape room industry. I just think it's a matter of time until it
yeah.
happens
Well,
for
so
real.
many places do a Harry Potter-esque, like you'll play their magic game and you're like, wow, this is all Harry Potter, but they didn't pay for the IP. And you're going, huh, okay. You certainly can't call it Harry Potter, but yeah, I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to pay for that. And maybe they have. Maybe it's just so expensive. I mean,
Right.
really, it's the only book series that has its own land at a theme park, right?
That's true.
So it's huge. Do you have any stories, any unusual or interesting stories of a group that has come in?
We joke at the escape room. We have funny stories every week.
Sure.
My favorite is from my first 6 months of working at the escape room. Before I was a manager, I was just a game master. It was pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, the escape room was actually one of those escape rooms where multiple parties could be put together,
Hmm.
which we all know is not ideal. So I was watching our pirates room, and we had three different couples. I could clearly see that the three couples, like three guys and a girl, coming in and playing together. So I ran the room and no problem. They all had a great time. The next week, I was also on the pirates room, and the group comes in, and I'm like, oh, it's the same guy. He was here last week. Oh, but he's got a different date. So we found out that the same guy was coming in every Saturday with a different date, doing the same escape room and pretending to not know anything. And it became a kind of running joke of how long is this going to go for? And I saw him at least 6 weeks in a row.
Wow. And you didn't say anything? You'd be like, oh, look at you with a new date.
I never would want to put them in a difficult situation, but as an introduction, you'd introduce yourself and say, "Hey guys, has anyone played an escape room before?" And I would look at this guy stern in the eyes and wait for him to say, "No, this is my first time."
That's hilarious. So you had what we call a escape room Romeo. And
Okay.
this is a thing. Apparently, when I first heard of escape room Romeos, I thought it was a an urban legend. But I've come to find out that a lot of places have had the same experience. And we talked about it with Tanya and Paul from Lock, Clock, and Peril when we had them on, and they had an escape room Romeo as well.
I didn't
Uh,
know it was a thing. I thought we were
it's
unique.
it's a
That's awesome.
thing. Is that crazy that it happens everywhere? I can't even imagine. It's
We
so
always talk
crazy.
about it, and we always say, like, "Oh, shouldn't that person be ashamed?" And 50% of me, I was like, "No, that's actually really smart."
Oh my goodness. So tell everyone the best way to follow Escape Room Novi.
Our website is escaperoomnovi.com. We're on Instagram. If you search us, we're escape_room_novi. We're on TikTok as Escape Room Novi. And yeah, you can hit us up through our website. We're about to get a brand new website, which I'm super excited about.
Ooh,
So that should be coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks, hopefully.
nice. And before we sign off here, are you part of any of the marketing?
As part of my job role, I'm involved with bookings, staff, sometimes fixing things, although I'm not the best with a hammer. But yeah, I'm involved with advertising and marketing.
Yeah, do you
A lot.
guys hire a company to do online marketing, or do you all do it yourself, like Google AdWords and that type of stuff?
We do everything ourselves. We used to have somebody, we had a company doing the website, and we would always ask for changes. But when I joined the company, I kind of knew how to do a lot of it. However, some of our advertising, like Google Words and Google Ads, our website company do that for us for a small fee. But yeah, we don't have any other like marketing companies or advertising. We kind of stay local. We advertise in the local high school programs, and we're on their scoreboard this year, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
And we just try and look after our local community in terms of advertising and
cool.
supporting charities. We've given out hundreds of gift cards this year. Hundreds.
Really?
We had the most demand this year for donations than ever before. So we can't do all of them, but we've done as many as we could.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. All right. Well, Sean, thanks so much for being on the show. It was a lot of fun talking with you.
That was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on. I know I'm not an owner or a designer, but just a guy who manages a pretty big escape room is pretty cool.
That's awesome. All right. So that's a wrap for this episode of Mystery Soup. This has been Curt without Chris. Keep your curiosity simmering and your problem-solving skills sharp. Every mystery is just a recipe waiting to be discovered. Until next time, stay adventurous and keep cooking up solutions. See ya!
Mystery Soup. Mystery Soup. Mystery Soup.